Dear basketball, from the moment I started rolling my dad's tube socks and shooting imaginary
Spooky, scary skibbity runners, let me talk to you. If there's something strange in your neighborhood, who are you gonna call? The HOA. Now, stay with me. If there's something weird and it don't look good, who are you gonna call? The police. If you're seeing things running through your head, who can you call? A licensed mental health professional. If you have a structured settlement and you need cash now, who are you gonna call? If you couldn't already tell, we're talking about Ghostbusters today. Specifically, Ghostbusters Afterlife. Is it a good movie or a bad movie? All of those questions will be answered today, so grab your proton packs and muster up some courage, cause today, we're busting some ghost. Did you know a group of 12 or more cows is called a flink?
Spoiler alert.
We come to this place for magic. We come to
Aaron M.
laugh, to cry, to care. That indescribable feeling we get when the lights begin to dim. And we go somewhere we've never been before. Dazzling images, sound that I can feel, and stories feel perfect and powerful. Because here they are.
Aaron M.
We make movies better.
Who you gonna call?
The Ghostbusters franchise has been around for over 40 years. It follows a group of parapsychologists in New York who investigate and eliminate ghosts. It all started with Dan Aykroyd, whose fascination with the paranormal inspired the original idea. After pitching it, the concept was heavily reworked into something more grounded and manageable, eventually becoming the script Aykroyd and Harold Ramis developed together. The first film became a massive success, launching sequels, shows, and video games. Now, between you and me, because I'm starting with the fourth movie and not the first, if you haven't seen any Ghostbusters media before, you might be a bit confused with some of the references and story in Afterlife. So, I'm gonna give you a quick rundown of the Ghostbusters world without getting too deep into it, because I might make videos on the other movies later. The first Ghostbusters movie came out in 1984 and consisted of Dr. Peter Venkman, the sarcastic laid-back frontman who relies more on charm than science, Dr. Ray Stantz, the enthusiastic heart of the group, always excited by anything paranormal, Dr. Egon Spangler, the quiet, hyper-focused genius behind all of their equipment, and Winston Zeddemore, the grounded, no-nonsense everyman who keeps things practical while everyone else dives into the science. They face supernatural threats ranging from capturing mischievous ghosts haunting hotels to stopping an all-powerful interdimensional pagan god from destroying the city. They do this by using gear such as the proton pack, used to contain ghosts with a charged proton stream, the PKE meter, which tracks paranormal activity, and the ghost trap, used to capture said apparitions. And of course, the Ecto-1, a heavily modified ambulance/hearse turned ghost hunting vehicle. That's all you really need to know for this. Now, fast forwarding to Ghostbusters Afterlife, released on November 19th, 2021, with a budget of around 75 million Schmeckeldors and serving as the fourth film in the franchise. After Ghostbusters 2, a third movie had been stuck in development for decades, going through multiple scripts and delays, but never coming together. That changed after the passing of Harold Ramis in 2014, which forced the story in a new direction. Instead of continuing the story the same way, the focus shifted to something more personal, a story about family, legacy, and a new generation, while still connecting back to the original films, which is why the main threat in this movie ties directly back to the first Ghostbusters.
So excited for D&D night. Do you think you could take off your shoes though?
Oh yeah, sure, no problem. Socks 2 points.
The movie opens with Egon being chased by something. He lures whatever's after him back to a remote dirt farm, trying to trap it in the middle of the field, but his plan fails. The entity closes in, forcing him inside where he sits with a PKE meter before being attacked and unfortunately killed. We're then introduced to Callie, a struggling, rough around the edges single mom and her 2 kids, Trevor, your average teenage boy, and Phoebe, a nerdy, socially awkward genius. After getting evicted, they move to Summerville, Oklahoma, to claim what Callie's estranged father left behind, which takes them to the dirt farm. Right away, things feel off.
A great earthquake. The sun became as black as cloth, the seas boiled, the moon became as blood, the skies fell. Revelation 6:12.
While exploring, Phoebe finds a PKE meter just as an earthquake begins to hit the town. At school, she meets Podcast, a conspiracy-obsessed kid, and Gary, her goofy, laid-back teacher who's secretly studying the earthquakes. Since Summerville isn't on a fault line and there's no volcanic activity, there should be no earthquakes. None of it makes sense. While walking home from school, Podcast shows Phoebe the abandoned mines. Back in the 1940s, they were mining stuff in the town, but they had to close down the mine site because workers began mysteriously killing themselves by throwing themselves into a mysterious pit inside the mines. He then shows her mysterious ancient carvings of unknown origins, with one of the carvings depicting a dog-like creature. They end up leaving the mines and are back at the farm. Podcast is understandably creeped out by it. In town, Egon was only known as the crazy weird dirt farmer, who was always doing something odd, and whenever the family mentions him or the farm, people react strangely. Back at the farm, things escalate when Phoebe starts noticing objects moving on their own, and the PKE meter begins reacting. Using the meter, Phoebe follows it to a spot where Egon died, and uncovers a hidden ghost trap beneath the floor. After showing it to Podcast and Gary, she learns about the original Ghostbusters. The 3 decide to open it and accidentally release a terrifying dog-like ghost. That's when it clicks for her. Egon was her grandfather. Gary brings Podcast and Phoebe back to the farm, where he and Callie grow closer. While they talk, Podcast finds a book containing an image of the ghost they released from the trap earlier. That's when they uncover the dark truth behind it. It's tied to a name, Gozer. An ancient, powerful, evil, interdimensional pagan god believed to rule a dark underworld of the dead. And if the gatekeeper, Zool, and keymaster Vince Clortho, aka Pterodogs, possess human hosts and reunite, Gozer can return and take over the human world. Meanwhile, Trevor spots a girl named Lucky at a restaurant and awkwardly gets a job there to get closer to her. As he tries to fit in, they begin bonding, and after work, they head to the abandoned mines. While sitting above a shaft, they hear rumbling below. When they move, a ghostly figure briefly appears at the bottom and whispers the name, Gozer. But they brush it off, thinking it was nothing. Later, Phoebe follows the PKE meter again and discovers Egon's hidden lab, filled with his experiments and ghostbusting gear. His ghost has been guiding her the whole time through the PKE meter. With his help, she repairs a proton pack, and after encountering a ghost named Muncher, the kids go on a chaotic chase throughout the town in the restored Ecto-1, which Trevor found and unknowingly fixed earlier with Egon's help. They capture Muncher, but get arrested. At the station, Phoebe calls Ray.
Don't we get a phone call?
Sure you do. Who you gonna call?
He said the thing! He said the thing! And learns the Ghostbusters split up after ghost activity disappeared. While Egon became convinced the world was ending and basically lost his mind, taking all the Ghostbusters equipment and tearing apart his relationship with the team when they refused to believe him. Phoebe tries to convince Ray that Egon was right, but she runs out of time. Callie and Gary arrive to pick them up, and Callie is furious. Back home, she and Phoebe argue. Callie resents Egon for abandoning her, while Phoebe wants to continue his ghost-busting legacy. As ghost activity rises after Zool or Vince Clortho's release, signaling Gozer's arrival, Gary leaves the farm and is possessed by Vince Clortho. Later, Phoebe, Trevor, Lucky, and Podcast regroup and realize something is happening inside the mines. They head down and discover a hidden temple with a statue of Gozer and the preserved body of Ivo Shandor, the cult leader who built Somerville and caused the events of the first movie. Markings on the wall shows decades of seismic activity, revealing he had been preparing for Gozer's return. They also realized the earthquakes weren't natural. Egon had built a system of proton packs designed to hold back Gozer's ghostly accomplices from the sacrificial underworld pit. It was enough to hold the other ghosts in the underworld back, but not enough to stop the Pterodogs from escaping. The system generates so much noise and vibration that it shakes the whole town. Back at the farm, Callie finds the PKE meter and follows it into the lab. She finds a wall of photos of herself throughout different stages of her life, revealing that Egon never forgot about her. He had to leave to try and stop Gozer, but was still keeping tabs on her, which is a touching moment for Callie, but the moment is cut short when Zool possesses her. The kids return to the farm and find her possessed, and as she runs off to reunite with the Keymaster, the kids realize they have to lure Gozer to the farm and trap her using a massive system of traps under the dirt farm. The same traps Egon was trying to use earlier to capture one of the Pterodogs. Those traps are the only thing capable of capturing her and every spectral entity that follows, so they gear up for one final stand. As they prepare, the possessed Gary destroys Egon's proton pack system at the temple, releasing all the ghosts from the pit. The Pterodogs reunite and Gozer is unleashed. The kids chase after them, and while Phoebe distracts Gozer,
I know y'all see.
Podcast traps one of the Pterodogs, weakening Gozer, and freeing Callie in the process. They rush back to the farm and try Egon's trap system, but just like in the beginning, it fails. But just when all hope seems lost,
Hey, Flat Top! Have you missed us?
the original Ghostbusters arrive to once again stop the same threat from their first adventure. But Gozer is way more powerful than before. Phoebe proceeds to take on Gozer one-on-one, and when it still isn't enough, Egon's ghost appears, helping stabilize the proton stream. With the original Ghostbusters and Phoebe holding Gozer back, Trevor and Callie manage to get the traps working, capturing Gozer and ending the threat for good. In the end, Callie gets closure with Egon as everyone says goodbye to him, and the Ghostbusters legacy lives on. And Gary comes back in the end when all the ghosts get sucked into the traps.
I'm abroad right now and they have this new thing called Pepsi Black. I've never tried it. I'm gonna give it
Alright, with the story wrapped up, I wanted to talk about a few things that confused me a bit throughout the movie. At the beginning, Egon traps one of the dogs in a ghost trap, which Phoebe later releases in the movie, thus setting in motion Gozer's return. And in the beginning, we see it's not Gozer chasing Egon, it's one of the dogs, which suggests that the Gatekeeper and Keymaster hadn't reunited yet, because if they did, Gozer would have already been there, even if only partially formed, which is what we see at the end of the movie. And if that was the case, you'd expect Gozer to be directly involved instead of just sending the dogs after him, right? So it seems like Egon was trying to stop the reunion, so Gozer couldn't manifest. But again, later in the movie, once the Pterodogs do reunite, Gozer appears. And even when one of them gets trapped, Gozer doesn't disappear. She's still there, just weaker. Which means trapping one of them only works before the ritual is complete, not after. that's what prevents Gozer and where things get a little messy. Because if Egon had already trapped one of the Terror Dogs at the beginning, then technically the reunion shouldn't have been possible in the first place. And on top of that, he already had the proton system holding the ghost back in the pit. So for the moment, things were under control. But then Phoebe ends up releasing the Terror Dog. So it raises the question, if Egon was trying to keyword prevent Gozer's return from happening, then why would he lead Phoebe to the trap in the first place? Which in turn ends up setting everything in motion. The only explanation that I personally came up with is that prevention wasn't working anymore. Maybe the proton pack system was gonna fail eventually, so he needed someone, Phoebe, to eliminate the threat permanently by releasing the dog and trapping everything in the ghost traps. But if that's the case, the movie never clearly shows that. So instead it just feels like things go wrong in order for the plan to work. It feels like Egon had a plan, but we're only just seeing parts of it. I don't know, maybe I'm an idiot and I'm just overthinking too much. Maybe this already got explained in the movie, or maybe there's another explanation. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you have any ideas. Another thing I was wondering was if Egon was able to move objects, interact with the physical world, and guide Phoebe, what was stopping bro from picking up a quill and plume and writing a message? When you die, do you just forget how to write? Or could he not appear as a physical ghost like he did in the end instead of being invisible for most of the movie? It feels like he could have communicated his plan more directly, thus giving Phoebe an easier time. I mean, I guess she's smart, but yeah. And then there's the weirder question. Why did no one believe Egon in the first place? If you've seen any of the Ghostbusters movies before this movie, you know they deal with weird stuff on a daily basis. It feels like someone should have believed Egon and the whole Gozer coming back thing. It feels like if he had just brought the original Ghostbusters to Somerville, or even recorded some video or taken pictures and shown them what was actually happening, the temple, the activity going on in the pit, they would have 100% believed him. And all of this could have been avoided, which also makes his fallout with the team and his relationship with Callie even more frustrating, because it feels like there are ways that this situation could have gone differently, where everyone wins and no one had to die. Anyways, plot and lore questions aside, the heart of this movie ultimately lies in his characters, both new and old. I liked most of the characters in this. My favorites were Podcast, Gary, and Callie, mainly because they were all pretty funny. Especially my goat, Paul Rudd. I feel like I can relate to Gary and Podcast. They're weird and passionate about what they love. Podcast is a little annoying sometimes, but he's awesome. And Callie, I like her take on the struggling single mom archetype. Callie doesn't have it all together. She's a little rough around the edges, annoyed at life, but she's still there for her kids. I feel like that part is pretty accurate to real life. Not necessarily her personality, but the overall vibe. Phoebe was good too. McKenna Grace really embodied the character and brought her to life. Phoebe can be a little annoying, egotistical, and prideful, but she's trying hard to build connection. And you can tell that even outside her cold, emotionless exterior, she wants connection and cares about her family and friends. She's really reminiscent of Egon, which is clearly what they were going for. In 2014, Harold Ramis passed away, leaving a huge gaping hole in both the Ghostbusters cast and the fandom. And as I said earlier, that loss really shaped this movie and became a big part of its focus. Egon's appearance at the end, which they pulled off with some really good CGI by the way, felt like a proper send-off. And because of that, I think Phoebe worked great as a continuation of him. She genuinely feels like his grandkid. Now for my least two favorite characters. Trevor and Lucky. Lucky just feels kinda useless. Not even kinda, she is useless. She doesn't really add anything to the movie. It almost feels like she was added just to fill out the team and mirror the original group. Obviously Phoebe is Egon, Podcast is Ray, Trevor is Peter, and Lucky is Winston. But here's the difference between them. In the first Ghostbusters, Winston actually had personality and a clear reason to be there. He played off of the others, leading to great comedic banter and natural conversations. creating strong chemistry with the team and making him feel like a crucial member of the Ghostbusters. Lucky just feels like a typical teen with a whatever personality and nothing else to her. I don't really see why I should care about her. She has no backstory and no in-universe reason to be there. She mostly just ends up being Trevor's love interest. Also, on an unrelated note, why does the actress who plays Lucky look like China Anne McClain? Like, it's not just me. And speaking of Trevor, I don't really like him either. Trevor just leans too hard into that teenage, get out of my room, mom, you're embarrassing me type of character. He comes off as kind of cringe and annoying. And yeah, like I said in my Rim of the World video, and the more I thought about it, the more I realized his character is actually pretty accurate to how a lot of middle school kids act. Which makes sense since the character's like 13 and 14. So I'm pretty sure it was intentional. But it's just not a personality type I enjoy watching. And on top of that, I feel like Trevor doesn't really bring much to the team either. He fixes the Ecto-1, which is cool, but outside of that, he's not doing much. He's supposed to fill the Peter role, but Peter was the smooth-talking frontman who wasn't afraid to challenge people and take risks for the business. Trevor is not that. I get it's a different take, but so far, it's not really paying off. It really feels like Phoebe, Podcast, and Gary are the main focus. Now, let's look at the movie as a whole. I think Afterlife is a cool new perspective on the franchise. It's packed with callbacks and Easter eggs that fans of the original will recognize immediately. That being said, Afterlife is definitely lacking in the comedy department. It's labeled as a comedy fantasy, but is nothing like the first movie, which was loaded with jokes. This one has a few zingers, but nothing particularly memorable. Okay, so there's this joke in the movie that I was gonna include, but it would be way too long and I'd get copyrighted since the joke spans for like a good minute. But basically, Phoebe's distracting Gozer in the temple when she first manifests. And the joke goes, a grasshopper walks into a bar and the barkeep says, "We have a drink named after you." And the grasshopper says,
You have a drink named Steve?
"You have a drink named Steve?" Oh my gosh, I hate how funny this is to me. It's just the way she says it and the joke itself. I don't know. And then immediately after this interaction happens,
have you come to offer yourself in sacrifice?
What?
it's not funny. It's not. But it just, maybe it is funny. I don't know. I find it funny, but it just reminded me of this.
Do you love me too?
Excuse me?
Alright, back to it. The movie also brings back most of the original characters, so it doesn't feel like a complete reboot. It truly feels like a continuation. The OG Ghostbusters are still present and actively involved, reinforcing the idea that this is a legacy story rather than a replacement. A passing the torch moment. And more importantly, this movie really honors Egon and Harold Ramis. In many ways, this feels like a tribute to him, both for the character and for the fans. Bringing back Gozer as the main villain further solidifies the film as a direct continuation of the original. Despite a few plot and lore confusions, it genuinely feels like a follow-up. The filmmakers clearly wanted it to connect to the 1984 classic, even down to the special effects. The return of practical effects for Zool and Vince Clortho adds a nostalgic touch. I'm not gonna lie, it was funny seeing them alongside modern CGI. The retro 80s style appearance occasionally clashes with the crisp modern CGI that we're all known to, but it ultimately adds authenticity and nostalgia, reminding audiences of what made the original so iconic. As a continuation of the original, Afterlife in my opinion works well for the new and current generation. It's a cool look at what ghostbusting might be like with a more serious and emotional approach and a slightly creepier tone. It's definitely way different from the original, which isn't a bad thing. You might not like it if you liked Ghostbusters for its comedic tone and 80s nostalgia, however, but having seen both back to back, I think it's good. Even when viewed as a standalone film, I still liked it. I enjoy movies with mystery and legacy storytelling, especially when they bring things full circle. And this one does exactly that. It's easily become one of my favorite movies. As always, thanks for ordering a Yappuccino, guys. Hope y'all enjoyed. I like the Ghostbusters franchise, and I'm thinking of doing videos on all the other movies. Let me know if y'all want to see that, because this franchise is the closest thing y'all will ever get to a horror movie on this channel. We're on the road to 100, so like and subscribe, comment and share, and I'll talk to you later, runners. Never say that you're all alone when you've got Aaron and videos. Aaron and it's him, and we always win. So your day is never looking grim. Movies and TV and all shows. Look at all of his videos. The channel's great, you don't need to hate. Ladies, I'm available for a date. The best community on the site. No matter if it's day or night. Here it's always funner because we're all runners. Like and subscribe, please don't be a bummer. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
You have a drink named Steve?